and welcome to a bonus episode of Diabetes Connections. I am your host, Stacey Sims, and with the Olympics underway and with swimming taking center stage this week, I thought it would be a great time to bring back this interview I did with gold medalist Gary Hall Jr., the very first person with type 1 diabetes to take Olympic gold. He was diagnosed in 1999 and told he would never swim competitively ever again. You'll hear how he got past that, even at a time, and it wasn't that long ago, before CGMs. Imagine doing all of that finger sticking with those wet fingers. And if you're not familiar, Gary Hall Jr. represented the United States at swimming in 1996, 2000, and 2004. It is quite a family legacy. His father, grandfather, and uncle all competed on the U.S. Olympic swimming team. Hall won silver in 1996, and then he was diagnosed with type 1 3 years later. Now, the doctors, as I said, told him he would never again swim competitively, but he became the fastest swimmer in the world at the 2000 Olympic Games, and he broke his own record in 2004. By the time he retired from competitive swimming in 2008, he had won 10 Olympic medals, including 5 gold. Quick note about this interview, which I did in the summer of 2021. I usually set these things up. We schedule them. We go to a quiet room or we do them remotely. But I asked Gary to come on. He said, sure. And we were doing the interview less than half an hour later. And you'll hear me mention this. He had to walk really from one end of the convention center to the other. You'll also hear some background noise or music because we are sitting at a table in front of anybody who walked by. If you're familiar with Friends for Life, this is right outside the exhibit hall. So it's kind of off the beaten path, but still a very public area. I'm also leaving in the comments I made after the interview back in 2021, and you'll hear that after my conversation with Gary Hall Jr. Gary, thank you so much for walking the length of the convention center to talk to me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm getting my steps in today. I'm feeling really good about it. And I'm also having a lot of fun.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. You spoke to the first-timer families this morning, people who are experiencing their first time to Friends for Life. Why was it important for you to speak to them? What were you talking to them about?
The antiquated expression is shell-shocked. Now I think it's PTSD, but when you go through a diagnosis, it hits you hard. It hits your family members and loved ones really hard. And you have a lot more questions than answers. And desperate is a word that comes to mind when reflecting back on my own diagnosis. What makes this such a great convention, such a great organization, Friends for Life and Children with Diabetes, and everybody that attends, is that sense of community here, that we're not in this alone, that there are others out there living and dealing with this condition in a similar way, that understand your struggles. And that's really all we want in some ways, is just to be understood, in such an emotional, traumatic time and experience. And so for first-timers, many of them newly diagnosed or the parent of a newly diagnosed child, it means a lot to me because I haven't forgotten what it's like in that short time after a diagnosis. And to be able to offer some support and encouragement and hope, hopefully, hope to those makes me feel really happy.
But when you were diagnosed, there was no one to lead you through it. There had been no one with your experience or the experience you wanted to have. And you have very famously shared, what a difficult time that was and how emotionally low it brought you. I don't mean to take you through the whole thing, but I'd be curious to know where you found inspiration. How did you get through that time when they said, sorry, kid, you're done?
Yeah, it took time. There are stages of grief, and I waded my way through that muck and found, in some ways, fortunate that I was a top-level swimmer, prior to the diagnosis, because I had people reaching out to me. This is unusual. That's not the norm. And so I was able to very early connect with JDRF Children's Congress and children with diabetes. I was here in 2000 when this was a new thing.
I'm going to ask you about that. I heard there was some swimming, some kids. Some handstands in the pool.
You can count on that when it's here at the Coronado Springs Resort in Disneyland World. Yeah, lots of swimming, lots of smiles. Good memories.
I bet. But, I mean, not to dwell on the difficult, but it's wonderful that they reached out to you, right? And that is an unusual experience. But you still had to find a way to say to yourself, my dream's still going to happen.
Yeah, there was no certainty in that pursuit. I didn't know what was possible. But this is life, right? Like, we don't know what we're capable of until we put ourselves out there. And I was willing to try and was really fortunate to connect with Dr. Ann Peters. And Ann has been here in the past and spoken to so many people, and she's great. I love her. I love Ann Peters. She was the inspiration, and it only came in the way of, yeah, let's give it a try. You know, it was that was such a departure from these other doctors that I had initially come in contact with. That, if you set your mind to something and try to figure it out, you're going to have some success eventually. You know? So that's what we kind of set to work doing. And like I said, there was no certainty that I would be the fastest swimmer in the world one day. But that's what happened.
Yeah. When you look back at that time and you think about how you manage diabetes now, what's changed for you?
The game changer in diabetes management was the continuous glucose monitoring device. And Dexcom came out with that device. It just changed diabetes management. And it was just almost like, how come I couldn't have had this 20 years earlier? I guess it wasn't that long but 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
I rely heavily on, the convenience of the CGM. I mean, being able to see where my levels are trending. In order for me to compete at the Olympic levels and do the necessary training, I was manually testing with finger sticks 20 times a day. And that doesn't even come close to comparing to, what the Dexcom has to offer. Yeah, that's been the biggest changer. In 2000, I was diagnosed in 99, last century.
Turn of the century.
The pumps were really just becoming popularized at that time. And I like pumps. A lot of people swear by them and love them. But it was just, I never felt connected. That's the first time I've ever used that pun. I just caught myself. Anyway, I just never the attachment, and maybe it was because I was a swimmer and in and out of the water and just wearing this could be Speedo or whatever, body conscious. I don't know, but I was able to get over that with wearing the CGM and a discrete behind the Speedo location backside.
We get a little personal on this show sometimes.
Yeah.
No worries.
So. Yeah, but the benefits to me were worth a wearable. Yeah, I love what the pump companies were doing, but at the time, 2000, everybody was, it was parading in the convention halls, the pumpers. It was this big movement and game changer and, how diabetes is managed. But I found after trying all the pumps that, I was getting this good range as long as I was, the testing was the key, and as long as I was willing to give myself a shot, pen needles are pretty easy to take. It's just personal preference.
I just want to ask you about the 20 finger sticks a day, because I remember my son went 7 years without a CGM, and it was, especially in the pool, those pruny fingers, it's really hard to do finger sticks. Was that an issue for you? I mean, do you have memories of like, oh, not this one. Oh, I'll try this finger. I mean, it must have been slipping around on the pool in the wet test strips. Right back to Gary answering that question. But first, one of the things that makes diabetes management difficult for us, that really annoys me and Benny, isn't actually the big picture stuff. It's the little tasks all adding up. Are you sick of running out of strips? Do you need some direction or encouragement going forward with your diabetes management? Would visibility into your trends help you on your wellness journey? The Dario Diabetes Success Plan offers all of that and more. No more waiting in line at the pharmacy. No more searching online for answers. No more wondering about how you're doing with your blood sugar levels. Find out more. Go to mydario.com/diabetes-connections. Now back to Gary answering my question about what it's like checking your blood sugar while you're swimming.
So yes, drying off properly is very important. There are times where, there's just watery blood going into the thing. It was juggling, and a lot more to carry in a pocket. I like to travel light, empty pockets. So now I've got my smartphone and a pen. And so I appreciate probably that more than anything because I bulky pockets. They slow you down.
And my listeners will definitely want to know if you have any tips and tricks keeping that Dexcom on in the water. Everybody's got a different method because everybody's skin is different. I'll give you that disclaimer first.
Yeah.
Any advice or anything to share?
Yeah, I know. I use duct tape.
All right, I need to just narrate. He looked around almost ashamedly.
Yeah, I know. I'm just hardcore that way. I guess. I'm sorry. I kind of like the roughness of it. So, when it needs securing, I get out that silver duct tape.
I'm almost sorry I asked. You're meeting kids here. You're talking to parents. This is a family conference. There are a lot of adults with type 1 as well. But I remember when my son was first diagnosed, anybody that looked like they were living well with type 1, I would just grab, how did you do it? What did you do? What's the key? And I know there's not really an answer for that. But I'm curious what you say, because I'm sure parents have already asked you.
What do you have to do to stay healthy?
Well, I think it goes beyond that. I'll change my question. Beyond keeping your blood sugar in control and listening to your mom, right, and doing everything
Always
you're supposed to do,
your mom.
yes.
Always.
I'm curious if there's more to it, because for me, I find that my son thrives the best when he's allowed to take risks. He knows that we trust him, and even if he messes up, hopefully it's in a safe enough environment. He's 16 now, just for context, so we're giving him longer and longer rope, and I think that's important for thriving with diabetes, is letting your kids make mistakes, letting yourself make mistakes. I'm curious if anything like that kind of helped you. I mean, you're somebody who had such high goals that had to have helped you thrive as well.
Well, I've got children. My daughter is 15, my son is 13 now, and they don't have diabetes, knocking on wood. And they're at an age where I remember from my childhood, independence is an important thing. And as a parent, you want to protect them, you want to shelter them, right? And even more so when your child has diabetes. We have to let them go. They have to leave the nest at some point and develop that sense of independence. And so that's difficult for a lot of parents here, especially newly diagnosed, that really have that instinct to protect and shepherd. And so then there may be some mess-ups, and a learning curve, trial and error process. There's error involved, and there certainly was in my learning curve in diabetes management. Eventually, you get through that, and they're able to take some ownership of it. And I think for me, I've always had a fierce sense of independence, and so that was really important for me, not just in my pursuits in the pool, but also in diabetes management.
Summer Olympics are coming up. What can we look for? Can you tell us anything we should be watching behind the scenes, or stuff we don't know, or fun stuff about swimming? I mean, you made such a show of it.
Well, sport is entertainment, so don't fault me for entertaining. I had some fun. That's all I was doing, just horsing around. But for Lookout, I went to the Olympic trials for USA Swimming. They were in Omaha, Nebraska, just a couple weeks ago, and saw the team qualify. And what an intense meet that is. They take first place and second place. Third place goes home. I was able to see some outstanding swims. I'm a fan of the sport. I've been following it closely my entire life. And the next guy, because there's certainly been a lot made of, Michael Phelps, his retirement. He's been a pillar of USA swimming for so long, who's going to replace that pillar. Caleb Dressel is the guy. And everybody will know his name after these Olympics. He's really just a phenomenal swimmer, a great role model. I expect good things out of him. On the women's side, Katie Ledecky, she was around in the last Olympics. She is a sweetheart. She's a darling. She's exactly who you want your daughter to grow up to be. So Team USA is in good hands. There's a lot of swimmers with them, shoulder to shoulder. Representing the United States, and we can count on them to do a great job and represent us really well.
And then just one last question before I let you go. Kids listening, families listening with type 1 who want to swim, high school level, college level, maybe dreaming about the Olympics. Any advice for them? I guess I'll be fishing here a little bit, but feel free to get specific. Obviously, you want them to follow their dreams.
Yeah. Listen, I say it often. You don't have to win an Olympic gold medal to enjoy the benefits of sport. That there is social camaraderie that's built and a support system, and you surround yourself with other young, ambitious people that have goals and work hard to chase them down. And, this isn't exclusive to swimming. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased. I think it's the greatest sport in the world. It is. But, we'll accept the benefits of other sports in addition to. I love sport. I love what it teaches. The data is overwhelming. Kids that are involved in a sports program, on a sports team, average, they outperform their classmates by one full grade in the classroom. What it does in stress reduction and overall health benefit is tremendous. If there was a single drug that had the efficacy of exercise and provided the same benefits of exercise, every single doctor in the world would prescribe that. It doesn't have to be swimming, it doesn't have to be for a gold medal, but go out and have some fun.
Gary, thank you so much for talking to me.
You're listening to Diabetes Connections with Stacey Sims.
Lots more information about Gary in the show notes at diabetes-connections.com or wherever you're listening. Most podcast players will let you access the notes. So if you don't like the way it looks in whatever player you're listening to, just head on back to diabetes-connections.com and click on the episode homepage. And I'll be honest with you, I don't usually share this kind of stuff, but I kind of wish I'd prepared a little bit better. I mean, I didn't realize I was talking to Gary until I talked to Gary, right? I met him there and he said, sure, I'll come on. And then we did the interview. And he has so many other things I wish I had asked about. He punched a shark. I guess he was in the middle of a shark attack. The shark was attacking his sister, and he punched the shark. I mean, this is a crazy story. His sister's okay. And he's also been very outspoken about doping during the Olympics. I'd like to talk to him again. Maybe we'll be able to do an Olympic roundtable one of these days with the other athletes who have competed. But he was very gracious to talk to me and to make the schlep all the way down the hallway to where I was. And you're laughing. It probably takes a good 15 minutes to get where I was in the conference center there at the beautiful Coronado Springs Resort at Walt Disney World. Okay, this is Stacey from 2024 back. I hope you're enjoying the Olympics. I hope you enjoyed this short bonus episode. I just thought it would be a lot of fun as everybody's thinking about swimming and talking about the Olympics to remind you that we do have incredible athletes in this community, people who are breaking barriers when physicians and naysayers said it couldn't be done. And we've got so many role models and future Olympians, I am sure, to look to. All right, thank you so much for listening. I will see you back here in just a couple of days for our regularly scheduled episode. Until then, be kind to yourself.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.